I'd like to call the meeting of the City of Red Oak Industrial Development Corporation to order. As the record shows, we have complied with the Open Meetings Act and we have a quorum present. New business, consider adoption of resolution number 23-004R, approving a proposal from a certified professional engineer to prepare a feasibility study for proposed water, wastewater, and street improvements to serve properties generally bounded by Pierce Road on the north, FM 2377 on the south, Pratt Road on the east, and Goodell Lane on the west, and authorizing its president to execute all necessary documents on behalf of the Red Oak IDC.
And just for the record, I believe David Wells and Waylon McAnally are in attendance via Zoom. So, Lee, if you want to bring the map up if you can. The item here, and we actually have a couple of proposals from two engineers that we use fairly regularly. What this item is about is we have been trying to negotiate with a potential purchaser for the property out there, but it is near impossible because we don't know what land sizes need to be out there. We don't know anything about capacity or anything else. So we've come to the point that on the previous two industrial parks that we had already gone through this process before we started getting potential buyers. We already had a basic conceptual layout of what the infrastructure needs would be, and we had a cost opinion and a cost estimate on what it would take to actually develop that out. So when we met with this particular potential buyer, we came to the agreement that we would bring something back to you all to start the ball rolling on our end to be able to develop that entire area. And then they are supposed to be working on what their needs are for their own property so that we can marry the two together and figure out how we're going to negotiate price on this thing. So in doing so, we've gotten quotes from, like I said, two engineering firms, one being Michael Westfall with Westfall Engineering. He is the one who did the original where Google and Compass are at. So he did the concept plan up there for us. He's done, other projects throughout the city for us over time. And then we've also got one from Kimley Horn and Associates, which does a whole lot of work for us within the city. Both of them do excellent work. I think that the infrastructure that's put together and the plan that's put together will be solid from either one of those engineering firms. There's a couple of differences. One is in the price. Kimley Horn is $85,000. Westfall is $112,000. And then also with Kimley Horn, they also, and Westfall could do this, we would just have to get the water model to him to be able to do it because Kimley Horn has our water model already. Assuming Rocket could serve it, then there's no issue. If working through Rocket, we figure out that there's problems, we have the option to buy CCN there from Rocket, then we would need to look at, okay, well, if we had to do that, it's going to cost us this much to buy the CCN, number one. Number two, it's going to cost us an amount to get the water from Red Oak over to that. So that may be a second thing that comes up, depending on, what Rocket's capacity and ability to serve in that area ends up being. We do know that there's two subdivisions, one on the east end of our property and one on the southwest end of the property that are already bringing water from Rocket in there. So we would try to piggyback on that and try to upsize whatever they're bringing and try to, do the oversized cost difference or loop it or whatever may be needed. So, but at this point, it looks like either one of them is going to be 4 to 6 weeks to complete. And it's a matter of we need to try to determine which one we want to use so that we can get started as soon as we can. The one issue that I do have, and it's not a secret, is a worry about the cost estimation, the engineer's opinion, because what I don't want to have happen is we go in there and estimate it's going to cost $4 million to develop this out, and bids come back and they're $6 million or $5 million. And we have had, I mean, and there's going to be any engineer during this type of market, it's not going to be exact, but we have had a couple lately from Kimley Horn that have been way out of budget. And, you know, if you can remember, city had to come to you all to help fund the Methodist Street pump station. So that would be the only hang up I have on using either one of those. We also have, I think Scott Williams from Public Works and Ben Hartman from Engineering, I think, are both on here too, if you have any questions for them. But like I say, I think the work from either one of them will be fine.
Your recommendation?
I think we would have multiple recommendations. Personally, I am more comfortable with Westfall just because of the recent history with Kimley Horn. And on this one in particular, I'm more concerned with it because on the others, it's just a matter of a cost overrun. Right. On this one, if it goes above what we budget for, is not only a cost overrun, but we've also negotiated a price at a bad cost number that we can't make it back up. So this one concerns me more than just another water line going in the ground or a sewer station going in or something like that.
I want to ask you a couple of questions. Like the last project Kimley Horn did was what? Methodist Street?
No, it was actually the utility relocations for the Oakville Road widening project.
And what was how?
It was, I think, budgeted 2.1 and ended up 2.9 or something like that. It was about 800,000 over budget.
I know they did Methodist Street, right?
Right.
What was that?
Can't remember what that one was over. I think Scott or Ben, if y'all know the number off the top of your head, I want to think it was like $1.5 million or something.
I think we had it in budget, let's say 2.375, and it ultimately came in at 5.4.
Lord.
Okay.
Who did that one?
That was Kimley Horn. Both of those were Kimley Horn.
This property out here, well, it's a little hard to estimate, but roughly when we sell some of that at a price we're looking at, we're into how many millions on 300 acres? That's without the,
Lee, you got that?
I guess maybe it's better to approach it from what kind of cost we're kind of anticipating on a.
I think we're into it for some, I hate to say it,
Yeah.
so that everybody knows what our cost basis is when we're trying to negotiate. But it is into the millions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like 8 digit.
Mm-hmm.
So the difference in these two bids is $27,000, and yes, that's real money, but it's not real money if we end up a couple of $1 million off on an estimate, or $1 million, or even 100,000.
Right.
So my thought here is I would rather see us select the one that y'all have the most confidence in the accuracy of. Do you have a reason to believe that Westfall would be more accurate?
I think we had a come to Jesus meeting with Kimley Horn last week before this, and they understand that they are under the microscope And I think they will be doing everything that they can do to redeem themselves moving forward.
You still think that Westfall is a better deal?
I think on this particular one, I think so, because we're not just putting a project in the ground, we're trying to put the project in the ground and base the selling cost off of that.
Casey, you have any comments?
Quite a few. And personally, I use Michael, on my projects, and I'll say that up front to say that I hope we, on that terms, I hope we pick Kimberly Horn, so he can focus on my project. But that's not why, you know, I'm here as an IDC member, and I know exactly how this process goes. And I'll flip Kimberly Horn a bit of a bone on the prices, just that they have gone absolutely insane. I mean, it's been like over the last couple of years, it's been pick a moving target. Although they should have a bigger database to work within to know. Just picking prices over the last, I think now it's stabilized somewhat to where you're not chasing a crazy number constantly. Like, what's this cost? Well, is it today? Is it 3 weeks from now? The numbers keep moving. But what I would say in this case is the bigger thing is, Michael and 2 other senior engineers will do this, all with 20 years experience. They're going to actually do it. Kimberly Horn will have a senior guy that's going to sign off it, but the junior guys are going to come up with the rough drafts, and they're going to come up with, and he'll oversee it, and he knows what he's doing. The point where I'm going with this is, if we stick to the timelines, either's probably fine. They're both good firms. Where Michael's going to have a huge advantage is if we all of a sudden have timelines where we got to change. We got to hit a new timeline. Compass wants to come in here. Rocket, that's another factor that's very much for Michael. Rocket loves him. He's got Kay and Robert on speed dial. If he says something, they believe it. They don't not like Kimberly Horn. They'll just take longer to review their work. They'll take longer to, if Michael says this is where this goes, they're like, okay, Michael said that's where that goes. So I think if we get into a situation where we're going to have to really hit new timelines and possibly speed it up, I think he can do it a lot better than potentially Kimberly Horn could.
I'll put this out there too, and this goes for either one. For either one, I've talked to a local utility contractor, and he has agreed to review all of the engineers' opinions of cost estimates to make sure that they are close. He's not
right.
bidding it, but he is reviewing it to make sure, this looks
About right.
about right. So if I was going to bid it, this looks like it's probably within the range. The other thing that I think is different on this project, and it's probably an advantage as opposed to a regular city infrastructure project, is that we don't have to bid this like a public infrastructure project that the city would. We would still bid it.
Yeah, sure.
But it's not going through those same processes. Anything that you put out there that's a city bid on a public bid is always going to be higher than it is a private bid. Being the IDC, we can still put it out there, get 3 or 4 folks to bid on it, and so on and so forth. But it's not the same. Whenever they see City of Red Oak public bid, everything is automatically going to increase.
Right.
So I think on this one, for both engineering firms, I think that'll be a benefit for us.
David, you have any comment?
Yeah, I was thinking, why not have them share some risk in it? I mean, if they really want the business to do this engineering work, then let's tie their contract to the accuracy of the bid.
Well, it isn't a bid yet.
Well, I understand, but you know where I'm going with this. If they're going to come there and throw their hat in the ring, then let's make them perform, and let's hold their feet to the fire and make sure that if we're going to pay this some money, it's based on their performance. And let's make it accurate.
I think they'll accept
I'm just thinking
that.
I'm thinking about normal government contracts I've worked on in the past, but I always got 3 bids, right? I'm trying to find the lowest bidder, of course, but I think in our case, we just want to make sure that's accurate, right? So we're not getting jacked around with too high cost or whatever in the end game. So I would say base it on performance. It's a different concept, but
Waylon, you have any comment?
No, I think that we're gonna have to be fluffy on any number anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just gonna have to, because we're gonna have to assume that this infrastructure project is gonna take place. If they started it tomorrow, we're not gonna see results for 18 to 24 months, probably. The cost structures are gonna have to, can change dramatically in that time period. I mean, they have stabilized, that's true. But right now, I mean, if inflation continues just the way it is, we could be looking at 25% more easily in 2 years from now.
And Waylon, I would agree with that. One thing that I'd put out there with Kimley Horn on those last three, or at least two of the last three projects, they didn't update those cost estimates as we move forward. So they have that in here before the thing bids, that it would be updated, prior to bid. I know that was an issue potentially on the first bid on Methodist Street. The second bid, they had already updated it, went through it, and the bid got higher on the second round. On the water line stuff here recently, that bid was, I don't know, Scott, was that a year old, or I know it was some months old at least, but they didn't update it before we went out to bid. So they've got that planned and projected in, to do the updates periodically as we move forward on it.
David, I think you got a good suggestion there, but I just don't know whether these companies would accept that cost plus or whatever it is they're talking about.
Or they'll just go too high,
Yeah.
just to protect themselves.
well, here's the other option. I mean, you think about it, it's like once we commit to this, we're pretty much committed, right? I mean, they go in there and they say, okay, here's the cost, and we jump in and go, okay, yep, we'll go ahead and do these changes. I mean, the other option on the back end is say, what's our level of pain we're willing to accept and put in as a management reserve, basically for the work itself. I mean, or do we do that, or do we do that at all? Is it just like, okay, once this engineering firm that we pick comes in there and does this, I say it's going to be this much money, we sign the dotted line. Are we committed at that point in time? I mean, is it going to have to happen no matter what happens to building costs and construction costs?
Casey mentioned they'd probably bid it higher if we put that in.
I think, David, what we probably want to do, whichever one we use, I think we need to take that into consideration. And if they come back and they say this is going to be a $7 million project, I think we need to budget $8 million or reserve $8 million.
Right.
Without telling anybody that we're reserving $8 million.
Exactly.
Well, and what specifically do we think we're talking about? A big lift station, a big line, water lines?
Sewer line.
And,
Sewer lines.
I mean, we're not talking about a universe probably bigger than that, right?
Well, you're talking about the widening of roads.
Right.
And the capacity on those lines, when we're looking at it, and we need to make sure that we leave it so that we have room to parallel lines along through there, because we're trying to make sure we future-proof it if we do end up building a sewer treatment facility further out to the east.
Right.
Then we need to make sure that whatever we're doing here does not hamstring us.
Right.
So we may not, it may take a 30-inch line to go out to a sewer treatment facility if we ever built one.
Right.
So we're not going to go build a 30-inch line, but we may look at it and say, well, it says we need a 12-inch line, but if we know we may need a 30-inch line out there, let's build a 15-inch line, and then that way we can come back and parallel another 15-inch line.
And-
10 years from now when it's time to build the
Because
station.
you mentioned the sewer treatment facility. If we were building one, I would go back to Kimberly Horn at that point, because their universe is
Oh,
big
yeah.
enough that would be up there.
Yeah.
But if
that-
we're not talking about that, then we, it depends on what do we, obviously, we're looking at the first step, but what do we think we're getting into here?
Yeah, so where we're at on a lift, sewer treatment facility is if we're building one somewhere out in our ETJ, not going all the way over to 45 and trying to partner with some of the other cities, and we're just doing it for us, we're probably looking at least 125 million just for the
Yeah.
facility,
Right.
plus the lift station and the trunk lines to get to it, plus the operation and maintenance expense of operating one.
But in that scenario, I think Kimberly Horn
They would probably be the one to do
Right.
that type of project.
Right.
You know, that's something Westfall has,
Yeah, it'd
to
be
my
out
knowledge,
of-
never built a
Yeah,
sewer treatment
if you learn it
facility.
as it goes.
You know, lift stations, infrastructure, water lines, sewer lines, I'm comfortable with either one.
Okay, but hang on a second. It's easy to get down in the weeds on the infrastructure itself, but the big picture is, right now, we seem to be a really hot market for
Yep.
data centers. We've already sold out all the space that we had, which we didn't think would happen for much longer than this. And we've gone out and bought a bunch more, hundreds of acres, because in the long run, over some years, we wanted to get more of it going out there.
Yep.
And we have somebody right now who said, I want to buy it right now because I've got a big client and I want to build another one right now. We should not assume that's going to be true in a year or a year and a half or whatever. We're the market now. And so the point is, on my part, I want to see us select whichever one of these is going to get us the most accuracy, the most attention, the fastest, because the one thing holding us up from another really big deal is getting this plan in place so we can get some numbers, so we can tell this guy how much we'll sell the land for.
Yep.
So all I care about these two is who's going to do the best for us, give us the most attention, the fastest, and I do not care about $25,000 in that situation.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying, I think if we get in a situation where Compass comes in and says, I gotta have it yesterday, and now all of a sudden everybody's gonna turn it in on our own contract, now all of a sudden that's changing, and we're like, Westfall, well, I mean, we'll pay you extra, but get it by today, he's got better flexibility to do that than Kimberly Horn would.
We have Ben Hartman and Scott Williams on here. Y'all have anything you wanna add that we haven't touched on, or just thoughts?
Hey guys, Ben here. I would agree with Casey on both sides, and I think Todd, we had the same conversation. As you know, Kimberly Horn's bigger; they have more to pull from, but that didn't seem to help in the last bids. Westfall's smaller, a little more nimble. I personally like working Michael a little better, but that's more of a personal relationship type thing. But when it comes down to the very essence of what Alan is saying, if you're asking me, I would say Westfall.
And I think that we'll do a lot more business with Kimberly Horn, and
Yeah.
they'll get a chance to redeem themselves. We'll have plenty more work for them. I don't think this is the project where we worry about them redeeming themselves. We need to get the numbers, we need to get them as accurate as we can, as fast as we can get them.
Property sold. Any more discussion in this?
Or Scott wants to.
If not, do I hear a motion?
Well, but, let me interrupt a second. I want to make sure that everybody,
So we have,
David, or you have anything else on it?
No, I'm good.
Waylon?
Waylon?
No, I have nothing to add.
Do I hear a motion?
Do we, in the motion, are we gonna name it specifically?
Yeah.
In the number or just the name?
the name and number.
What is that?
Well, it depends on which one you're going with.
I know. You wanna make the motion? Where's the?
Westfall, the number for Kimberly Horn is 85,000, the number for Westfall is 112,000.
What's the,
So I move we approve resolution number 23-004R with Westfall Engineering for $112,000.
second,
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? David?
Aye.
Well, Waylon?
Aye.
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 5-0. Do we have any executive session?
No, sir.
Is there any other business we need to attend to?
No, sir.
Do I hear a motion to close?
So moved.
So moved.
Second,
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
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 5-0.